Hey YouTube, this is Josh with Josh Wright Piano TV, and today I'm coming to you from a practice room at the University of Michigan to answer two questions that I receive all the time. I receive this question probably at least once or twice a week from some student around the world who's struggling with these two questions, and I want to answer them. Of course, these are subjective answers, and you can take it for what it's worth, but these are things that I've noticed in my own teaching with my studio, as well as in my own personal experience with lessons and competing and doing concerts. The first question is, how many pieces should I be working on at one time? And the second question is, how should I prepare for a recital? So, the first question, when I'm just working and learning a new piece, and learning new repertoire, I generally like to work on 2 to 3 things at one time. Now, if you're a traveling concert pianist, you might need to be working on 10 things at once. But for the average student, I find that 2 to 3 repertoire pieces keeps you busy enough, but you can also dig in and really get those details. Remember, if you go deeper rather than wider, so depth rather than breadth, your results and your efficiency will be enhanced greatly. So a lot of times students say, well, I'm only learning one piece at a time and we've spent 6 months on it. Well, if it's the Chopin Ballade No. 1, I've spent 10 years on the Chopin Ballade No. 1. I mean, I was probably performing it 6 months after I learned it, but there's never an end to learning something. You can always improve on it. And especially for students kind of coming at an intermediate level, I like to get them through pieces more quickly, and so we'll spend more time specifically on a piece. So if you're learning Fior Elise, I'm not going to sit and make you do that for years and years and years and years, because it's a stepping stone to more standard repertoire. But if you're working on something like the Liszt Paganini Etude No. 6, you might work on that for a year straight, and maybe 6 months into that you're performing it, but then you keep working it and you keep competing with it, you keep performing it. I mean, I think I didn't stop with that piece for maybe a year and a half before I took a break from it, because I was performing it and things were going well. I was learning a lot. So that answers that question. 2 to 3 pieces at once for practice up to 2 hours. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do you divide up your practice time? I want to answer that as well. I generally like to practice about, if I'm going to do exercises in specific and I'm not working just a piece, for my exercise. So if you're to the point of, working on Chopin etudes, those are great ways to warm up. You don't need to probably be doing like, that's going to be a much worse use of time than if you're doing something like, that's going to work your agility much better than something like Hanon. And it will also be more useful to you because you can start learning more repertoire and warming up through pieces that you want to learn or that you already have learned. So I find that to be more efficient. The second question, how do I prepare for a concert? Right now, I just finished the National Chopin competition, which was about 2.5 hours of repertoire in March. And then the last 2 weekends I've been performing at kind of a crossover type event. I've been performing some classical and then some Broadway stuff with a singer that I know. And now this weekend I'm performing the 4 Chopin Ballades. You might think, oh, you just did the Chopin competition, you're totally fine. But actually I had to bring back the 3rd Ballade in about a few days for my following lesson. I played it maybe 4 years ago is the last time I touched it. And then the 4th Ballade, I learned the notes about 2 years ago and memorized it. And so I learned the notes, memorized it, and played it for my teacher. And that was all very intense. That was about a 3-week period that I did that. And really, I'm not the fastest learner. You might be like, what are you talking about? That's way fast. But for being in a doctoral program, I don't think that's particularly fast. You should be able to learn that, and a lot of my colleagues learn much faster than I do. But now, that was only 2 weeks ago, I'm already in the stage of performing my pieces a lot. And you might think, well, how do you get to that stage as quickly as possible? And I want to just bring in a practical example. I was just practicing the 2nd Ballade tonight. I haven't touched that in about 3 weeks. And what I did is to bring it back. If you're bringing a piece back, I'll show you how to prepare for a concert, and if you're learning something new, I'll also explain that. If you're bringing a piece back, what I like to do is go backwards through the piece by section. So I'll sit and I'll do maybe that's too fast. If you haven't touched it for a while, you're going to want to listening for every detail, okay? And then I like to, it's up to you if you like to go through the whole piece first, but I personally like to go through each section slow and then full tempo. Okay? And then I'll go through backwards by section. And again, these sections aren't tiny. I've told you in previous videos doing 2 measures at a time is great. Or 4 measures at a time, or 8 bars at a time. I'm doing big sections for this because I want maybe 16 bars at a time because I want big rescue points. Of course, you need to know the piece intimately, but when you're preparing for a concert, going every 2 measures is quite tedious. All right, so I'll do that, and then I'll play through the whole ballade. And I just did this maybe 20 minutes ago, and I thought I should record this video because I've been putting it off for so long. And so I played through the whole second ballade, and the only places that gave me trouble were in bars 133 through 138. I had a little memory slip. I went like... And you play through your mistakes. Don't stop and then fix it. Play through your mistake all the way to the end. You got to practice performing. You got to practice going through those mistakes. Then you go back and you say, what went wrong? And I'll try to think of it in a different way. So I like to bring theory into it. And if you don't know your theory, check out my technique series. It's Pro Practice Technique series. I go through all the triads and inversions, all the 7th chords and inversions, and that will help you to do what I'm about to do. You have to practice it to get better at it. And I'm not a genius at theory, but this is pretty basic stuff. So this is D7 to G minor, and then I stay on G minor. Okay? Now you can interpret this as a C sharp diminished 7, or you could think of it kind of like a suspension into that, or you could just think E half diminished 7 there. And that's what got me. G minor, E half diminished, going to the C sharp diminished, back to G minor. So the only things I'm thinking are G minor, C sharp diminished, E half diminished 7, whatever, and it really is, it's C sharp diminished. If you theorists are going crazy, why would he call that an E half diminished 7? Of course it's C sharp diminished 7, but I'm just thinking I like to go to the E, so that's why I like to think of it that way. And then back to G minor, and watch what happens. E half diminished, G minor. And it works, okay? And then the other place was just an accuracy thing. So I practiced, I just came up with a cool little thing. It's not really that cool, it's just playing these chords by themselves. Okay, so now when you're at a competition or a concert, how do you balance all of your pieces at once? This is really intense stuff. I think for the Chopin competition, for me it's intense. I know some of my colleagues like Rachel Kudo, she's amazing. She's already going to another competition. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how would she possibly handle those types of stresses right after she wins 2nd place at Chopin? Now she's going to another one. Amazing. So I'll give you a more realistic point of view because I'm not that intense. I think for me, the thing that helped me the most with Chopin is setting up lots of practice performing. I was talking to one of my other friends, Andrew Tyson, who's playing I absolutely admire so much, and he was saying, don't neglect any round in particular. You know, you want to work on your concerto a lot in addition to your first round. And actually at the competition, I played my concerto the worst. So I played the worst I felt in the finals, which was discouraging. But one of the judges told me, he said, work on your concerto first and then work back to your first round, because if you make it through the first round, you're already starting to see a little bit of the best, and then 2nd round, creme, 3rd round, creme de la creme, and then 4th round, you're the celebrity of the competition, so you better do good. You don't want to disappoint them. I felt like I kind of disappointed myself in the finals, but it's okay. We all learn, and we're all doing our best. How do I prepare for all those rounds, though? I would practice each round, so about 1 month before the competition, because I was just practicing, learning, memorizing everything, getting everything back in my hands up until about 1 or 2 months before the competition. And then every day I would practice about 30 minutes of repertoire, of like performance repertoire. So my third round was an hour, and so maybe I only get through half of that, but my first round was like 25 minutes, so I'll get through all of that. So I'll just set out for a half hour a day about, and I'll go into depth. That takes about 4 hours to practice, for me, effectively on that half hour of music. And then as the competition gets closer, maybe I'll do a round and a half, so maybe 45 minutes of repertoire, or I guess that's one round with some rounds. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll go through each piece. If you're feeling good, you don't have any little weird places that you need to work out, what I'll do is I will start by playing through a piece very slowly. And this is what I did the day before the competition as well. You can do this the day before the recital. I practice going slowly through the entire piece, very slowly, and then I go back and I work out any little places that made me a little bit nervous even during the slow. I'll work those out, and then I'll play through the whole thing fast, and I'll record it. Or I'll have my wife, who is a wonderful concert pianist, marking my music. Now, if you don't have a beautiful concert pianist wife, you're gonna have to use a recording device. But you go through, and then you mark all the places that you wanna work on, and then you move on to the next piece. I don't like to sit and let things fester and, bother me forever. Again, that's just my opinion. Some people like to go back immediately fix. That's cool too, but I like to move on, okay? And then I'll go through very slowly, then play little spots that make me nervous, then all the way fast, mark the spots, move on. And I'll do that with each of my pieces. And then later that day, this took me about 8 hours of practice a day during the competition in order to do all of this effectively for each round. Later that day, I'll go through and I'll really work the spots that I marked. So I did slow, fast, marked the spots, moved on. Now I'll go back, I'll mark all the spots again, and then I'll perform everything fast again. Okay, now the day of the recital or of the competition round, whatever you're doing, a lot of people say, I don't like to practice much. That's fine. You don't have to. I have to practice a lot. And a lot of people say, I just like to go through things slowly. That's fine too. If you've got the time, if you're playing later in the evening, which most things are, I'll go through the whole round slowly again, the whole round fast, and call that good. And if there's something that really went wrong, of course I'll go back and work on that and maybe play that piece through again. But if it was a tiny little note slip or a tiny little memory slip, I'll just review that for a few minutes, but then let it go. If you sit and you obsess and obsess and obsess, what happens is your mind obsesses like that during the performance, and you don't play your best. At least I don't. And so that hopefully answers your question of how do I prepare for a concert or a competition a couple months out. You got to learn, memorize your stuff, then practice pieces of it. And as the competition gets closer, day by day, the amount of repertoire you're handling is getting bigger because you are working on less little intricacies because you've already mastered those, hopefully. And then during the competition or the day before your recital, slow, fast, mark, slow, fast, mark, slow, fast, mark. And then you go back through, work that again, slow, fast, and try to perform it for someone the day of the concert, before the concert, if that doesn't make you too tired. Thank you so much for watching. If you can go ahead and share this video, I would truly appreciate it. I try to get these tips out to as many people as I can. It's not for any personal gain, obviously. I'm just trying to spread these ideas because so many students ask me these things, and it's sad to me that they don't have teachers that can give them these types of answers. And the only reason I'm able to is because of my amazing teachers. So thank you to my amazing teachers, to my wife for all of her help. And so if you can like or share this video, I'd truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me today on Josh Wright Piano TV. Have a great practice session.